What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? It's Dan here from Cryo Noir. I want to share with you a theory that I have on game development and why you should always buy the second game in a series. This is based entirely on speculation. It's based entirely on never having worked in the games industry, and also just on my noticings and wild musings. There's no significant amounts of research that's gone into this. This is just something that I've kind of noticed, and I think I've come up with a reason why. I might be completely wrong, but take it for what it is. Okay, I think the reason why the second game in a series is generally the best comes down to the unique way in which games are made and funded, and I will basically try and go through and explain why that is. In the music industry, there's this term called the difficult second album. And basically what happens is you have an artist or a band or something like that, and they've spent better part of sort of 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years or whatever, a significant amount of time either working together or alone, and they're writing stuff and they're making songs and they're honing their craft. And then they eventually get a break, they get some sort of record deal or they get signed, and the producers go, right, okay, so let's make an album. So they then have all of that lifetime's worth of work to kind of cherry pick from and to pick out the best things to construct the best album that they can. And they do that, and then with any luck, it comes out to be amazing, and people buy it. So then they go on tour and they start promoting, and they're moving around and they're doing all of the stuff that comes with having a new album out. And then after however long the tour goes on for, however successful it was, they then get told, right, into the studio again, we need a second album, away you go. Now, if they've not been smart, and they've spent most of the time partying and having fun and stuff like that, they're then suddenly thrust into this environment where they have like 6 or 7 weeks or, maybe a couple of months in a $1,500 to $2,000 a day studio, and they're surrounded by studio techs and producers and other people like that, and they're all staring at them, just going, right, make magic, make it happen. And if they've not been working, if they've not been writing stuff while they've been on the road or while they've been doing promotion, they've not been thinking about this, suddenly it hits them very hard and they're really under pressure, and they've got nothing necessarily to fall back on. I mean, if they've got a previous back catalogue, then maybe they could tweak some of that stuff or bring it out, but and that's where that comes from. You end up with sort of relatively shoddy second albums. That's not always the case. There's a lot of very good second albums. I mean, Nirvana, Nevermind springs to mind for all you old fogies out there. That was their most successful album out of them all, I believe. It's not my favourite, but it was a very successful second album. And films work in a fairly similar sort of way. With a film, somebody has a script or a story or something, it gets picked up by a producer or a director or an actor, and they decide they're going to make it. And they don't know how well it's going to do. They might have an inkling, they might think it'll work really well. I mean, presumably they think they're all going to work really well, but there's no guarantee. So what they tend to do is they tend to create it with whatever budget they have, and they try to make a final product. They try to make a film that has a beginning, a middle, and end, and a nice little resolution, and everything's in there, and hopefully it's okay and people think it's amazing. And then that's really as far as they can afford to think. But then, say it does very, very well, and then the studios turn around and say, oh wow, well we could turn this into a trilogy, we need a sequel. And then they end up on the back foot, and they have to try and come up with something to do with the sequel, and that's why you end up with often really poor second films and subsequent films after that. If they're designed from the outset to be, a trilogy or a quadrilogy, as now appears to be the case, then that's it. Or if it's they do well, or if it's handed off to a different director or something like that, or they go a different direction with the films, like the Alien films, then fair enough. They can often work out quite well. But the prime example of the thing that I'm sort of illustrating here is both Star Wars, A New Hope, and The Matrix. If you look at both of those films, I mean, they are effectively the same film. They follow the hero's journey, and it follows that story arc perfectly. The hero or whatever is just some regular bum. They've got no big aspirations. They have the call to become a hero I can't remember what it is now, a call to the journey or something like that. They have the old mentor that's teaching them, and then they have the crisis of confidence in the middle, and they don't think they can do it, or they reject the call to become a hero. But then in the end, they come back, they face their demons, everything goes marvelous, and we all super happy and surprised. And if you look at how both those films finish, at the end of The Matrix, he gets in his thing and flies away and goes, yeah, this isn't, this is not how the story ends. This is just the beginning. Blah blah blah. I'm going after the robots or whatever they're called. It's been a while since I've seen that. I'm going after the agents, and I'm going to kill them. And then in Star Wars, they blow up the Death Star. Everybody's happy. Let's all celebrate and have medals and fun times, but not you, Chewbacca. So then when they were really, really successful, suddenly they have to come up with new ideas and try and progress the stories. Now, Star Wars was very successful because George Lucas just went down the line of, well, we'll just make the second one an absolute, an absolute tragedy, and we will either kill off major characters, or we'll have them with their hands cutting off, or we will freeze them in carbonite, and we'll just generally show the rebels just getting an absolute pasting from one side of the galaxy to another, and then that'll set up a third film where they then try and claw their way back. Isn't that good? And that works perfectly well. The Matrix 2, on the other hand, stumbled and fell flat on its face and broke its nose and spat its teeth out for all our amusement. So yeah, so these are the two ways to answer that. Now with games, I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, if somebody's in the games industry and I'm completely wrong, let me know. But I think the way it kind of works, or from what I can gather, is that you have someone will go into a room or whatever in front of the directors. They'll pitch the idea and they'll say, well, we want to make this game. We'll have these mechanics. We're doing this story. So, we have this really, really good idea about a game in which you are a 12th century florist in France and you are setting up a flower shop, and I think it will be really good. So they basically have somewhere between little to no faith in the project. So they have enough faith to put some money behind it, and to say, right, okay, we'll go ahead and make your flower selling game. That's a good idea, we think, and just see what you can do. So of these people told, they get a small crew together, or not necessarily that small, but by AAA standards they get a fairly small crew together, it's a fairly small amount of money together, and away they go and they make the game. And they basically make what they can. They make what their budget will allow for, and hopefully kick it out the door and it gets liked. And if it goes out into the world and it is successful and people are like, oh, that's really, really good, then the studios are suddenly all over them and say, oh yeah, make a sequel, here's more money, here's more people, here's more time, go do that more better. So then the people that have made this little flower game or whatever say, oh well, we can import into this new engine, we can add all these extra mechanics that we wanted to add last time but we didn't have chance to. And lots of people were complaining about the mechanic where you have to arrange things in a basket. They didn't like the basket mechanic. They thought that wasn't very good, and it would be much better if it was done like this. So we'll get rid of the basket mechanic, and how about we'll up the stakes as well? So instead of just having a little small flower shop, you now have the biggest flower shop in all of Paris, and you're now dealing with bigger things. So they then get all of the finance and the funding to make the game that they really wanted to make the first time. And they get to do all of the things, and they've learnt the lessons from the mechanics that they should have done if they've listened to the people who've reviewed it and who's played it. Then they know what didn't work about the original version, and they can remove those bits or tweak them or fix them, and they can add all of the features that they really wanted to do. And then away you go, and you get the sequel. And the sequel is it's like the first game was a proof of concept. The sequel, that's what it's supposed to be. That was the game that they really wanted to make, and that's it in its best, truest form. And then after that, that does very, very well, because all of the fans that were on board with the flower arranging game in the first place, they were all like, oh wow, a sequel, and it's all loads better, and they fix all the problems and that. And then they all tell their friends, and everyone else jumps on it, and they'll go, wow, this is an amazing game. And sometimes they'll be coming on board just at the second one. They won't have all the history of the first game. So they'll come on board at the second game, I think, wow, this is absolutely amazing. This is a chuffing brilliant flower arranging game. I'm absolutely in love with this. I hope they make more. And then it comes to the third one, and they're like, oh, well, what do we do now? We've kind of done everything we'd really wanted to do with this game. And then that's when you get this kind of feature creep kind of thing coming on, where they start kind of bolting on all these extra little bits and, you know, having other things in there that really didn't need to be there and don't make sense. And sometimes franchises really lose their way by about the sort of the third and the fourth game. And that, I think that's purely and simply because of the way I've just described. Now I've got some examples for you. I've got quite a few examples for you, which I think back this up. A prime example, the one that I always go for, is Assassin's Creed. Now, if you look at the first Assassin's Creed, they presumably went with the idea of going, we've got this like animus thing, and you explore your old DNA, and then you go around and climb things and jump off things and stab people. And you look at that, and it did okay. It did really well. And it was definitely a proof of concept. There was definitely something there that people were like, okay, this could be really, really good. Step in Assassin's Creed 2, and they've suddenly made the worlds larger, or the areas much bigger. So, you know, that I think it's about 3 or 4 cities you get in Assassin's Creed 2. They are really, really nicely fleshed out. They're really developed. Loads of people about, and the missions are really concise in places. There's not a huge amount of filler as far as missions are concerned. There's lots of kind of, hunting for collectibles like treasure and feathers and other stuff like that, which is, a beside the point kind of thing. They're just in there just to tick a checkbox. But and even so, because the world is so fleshed out, you kind of enjoy doing that anyway. I've spent a lot of time in that game, and it was really concise. It was very, very kind of whole, if you know what I mean. It was a solid individual product. And then after that, they started adding in all this utter garbage. Like, we're talking things like, where you had, like, you could send assassins off to go do missions, and you had, like, this weird little kind of fantasy league football thing only with assassins, and you had all these stupid extra additional weapons and mechanics that you never ended up using, and they started introducing grenades, and they started introducing this and that and blah blah blah, and then when you got by the time you got to number 3, they added the homestead, and you added all of these really unnecessary, pointless and stupid mechanics. And they even introduced the boat mechanic as well. Now, that turned out to be a very good idea, because the 4th game really used that effectively, and actually it became a different game. I have issues with that altogether. I love Assassin's Creed 4, but I also hate it in equal amounts as well. I'll probably do a video on that one day as well. But the whole ship mechanic in Assassin's Creed 3 was completely pointless. That literally was in there, and I think that was almost just in there as a proof of concept. Again, they wanted to try and make a pirate game, or they wanted to make a game like that, and they were like, we don't really have the balls to do it on its own, so we'll just tag it into an Assassin's Creed game and see where we go from there. And I think there's loads and loads of examples of this kind of, proof of concept, perfect game, and then downhill, crashing, falling, burning, car crash as they just start throwing more and more junk at a game, just to try and justify its existence. I mean, if we start listing like perfect sequels or things like that, you've got, first, top of my head, Sonic to Sonic 2. Sonic 1, really good proof of concept. Sonic 2 elaborated and made everything amazing. Sonic 3 and Knuckles and all that kind of stuff started just throwing lots and lots of other junk in there that potentially really didn't need to be there. And people usually cite Sonic 2 as the best. Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage 1, very good proof of concept, very good. Streets of Rage 2, they had a load of new mechanics, and combos and other things, and it works perfectly well. Streets of Rage 3, they start adding extra things, like where you can roll up the screen and you can start doing it, and some of the bad guys start to get a little bit stupid, and it just loses its way and falls apart. Super Mario Brothers to Super Mario Brothers 3. Now a lot of people will be like, oh, you just broken your rule. I didn't break the rule there. Super Mario 1 was the first Mario game that was built from the ground up to be a Super Mario game. Super Mario 2 was just a reskinned version of a Japanese game. I want to say it's called Opa Opa, but it wasn't. It was called something else. Somebody much smarter than me will know what that was called. But Super Mario 2 was not a Super Mario Brothers game. It was a different game that they just stuck a Super Mario Brothers skin on so that they could sell it over here. And then Super Mario Bros. 3 is the proper true sequel to Super Mario Bros. 1, and you can see that from the ground up. It's a very similar game, but it's improved and it's got all loads of extra mechanics, and people often cite that as probably one of the best ones out there. I mean, obviously Mario kind of went on to do Super Mario World and all that kind of stuff, but that kind of works on a very similar sort of trend. Mass Effect series, Mass Effect 1 was very, very good, but had some pretty ropey bits in there as well. Mass Effect 2, to my mind, is one of the best games ever made. I know I might get a lot of hate on the internet for that because it's not a true RPG and blah blah blah, but to my mind it's an absolutely exceptional piece of gaming right there. And then Mass Effect 3 was just a tragedy. And again, lots of other stupid mechanics thrown in there that we really, really didn't need. Like the building up your readiness thing, which effectively made no difference whatsoever. And just lots of other stupid mechanics. Street Fighter 2 started out with, Street Fighter, which was pretty terrible, but they honed an awful lot of the things that would then come to basically be a standard for fighting games, and they really started to hone those. And then Street Fighter 2 came out, and it was the best Street Fighter thing, best one-on-one fighting game almost pretty much of all times, and it kind of lost its way here and there, but that is what it is. I could go on, I can't remember any more off the top of my head, but there's absolutely loads, and I'm sure you'll come up with loads of other versions, loads of other games. And that's not to say that this is a be-all and end-all, don't get me wrong. There are lots of series that continue going from strength to strength, and lots of series which didn't start out particularly good and then stumble and fall flat on their face, but for some reason keep getting jump-started and keep being alive for no apparent reason. Certainly not that I can see. But yep, that was just a thought, something I've thought about on numerous occasions, and I don't know how accurate it is or how true it is. It's based on no research other than my own observations, shall we say, and my observations are often flawed and quite pointless and stupid, but it's just something I noticed. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, please hit the like button, show us some love, hit me up on Facebook as well. This is kind of a front for a game development studio, which I currently am setting up with a friend of mine in America called Josh, and we have devlogs on here for games that we're working on, that we're hoping to get to release in around about 2018, hopefully. It's a bit of an inside joke there because it was supposed to be February, and we'll just see about that. And then also you can see my game making journey, which is my entire history of how I got into making games, and my love letters, which I do to currently I've done a couple on consoles, or on the Mega Drive, on the Amiga, and also my love for LucasArts games, and those are much more sort of structured videos. So please check them out as well. Check out all my other content. Thank you very much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Thank you very much for your time. And hit me down there with a comment. Can you come up with any other sequel games, or games where you had a proof of concept followed by a sequel that was excellent, and then so Dead Space, there we go, that's another one, where it just nosedived off the edge, or am I completely wrong and completely out on a limb here and couldn't be further from the truth? Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know, and right down below, that's where you would do that. Take it easy, hit subscribe. Thank you, goodbye.